Hey, welcome back, everybody. Dr. Greg Eckel. This is What the Health. Today's topic, conscious evolution, integrating innate healing, stress science, and multidimensional awareness. This is with Swirl Jordan Moore Williams, and she is a lifestyle transformation artist and holistic guide specializing in holistic pain management. Her journey began when spinal issues threatened her quality of life, leading her to discover transformative healing modalities. Now she empowers clients to embody vitality and fulfillment through her deep knowledge and personal experience. Swirl's mission is to guide others on their path to vibrant living, offering practical tools and holistic wisdom for lasting transformation. Welcome aboard, Swirl.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
I love this topic of conscious evolution versus unconscious evolution, number one. And I'm wondering, what can you elaborate on this concept of the innate healing power and how you help people access it?
Yeah, definitely. So ultimately, I believe that the power that made the body is the power that heals the body. And we are all connected to some type of source energy, whatever you want to call that. Some people refer to that as God, as nature, imagination. There's so many different things, but ultimately I tend to refer to this as the source of all creation, the source of all energy. And this energy is what connects us to each other, and actually what connects everything. So everything is connected and everything is all one ultimately with this source energy. And so this innate healing or innate wisdom is something that's just naturally present within the body because of the source energy that is making us animated, that is creating our life essence, as you will. We're without that, then we're just kind of a bag of bones and tissues and other things, but there's no life force, there's no energy behind it. So that's what I mean. That's what I'm referring to when we speak about source energy and this innate wisdom. So the power that made the body is the power that heals the body. And I believe that we can, that all the answers are already present within the self and within that field of everything that's connected. So when it comes to healing, then we can really turn within and turn ourselves on even in those ways.
And how do people, this may be a new concept of the innate intelligence or the innate healing power. How do people access that?
That's a really great question. I feel like it's quite simple, but not always the easiest thing, which my simple answer is presence. The more present that we become, the more aware and conscious that we become, then that's the more in tune that we can be with that innate wisdom and that
Hmm.
innate intelligence.
So in this like eternal present now, not
Mhm.
going into the past or projecting into the future, but having deep presence now. I like that you had mentioned this component of turning in. I'm wondering if there's specific techniques that you use with your clients around helping them get present. Oftentimes we're so busy, or I like to say it's a dangerous neighborhood to go into by yourself up here for a lot of folks. How do you get somebody to arrive to that spot?
Yes, so I do quite a few different things as far as when I'm working with people. One of the modalities is called alpha biotics. It is a hands-on technique that we actually reset the brain out of a stress state and into whole brain function. When the brain is fully turned on, presence is immediate. Like the person just becomes present because the hemispheres lateralize and all energies balanced on both hemispheres of the brain, as well as in the prefrontal cortex. We have lower beta brainwaves on one side and then more alpha, even theta and delta brainwaves on both sides. So that's one simple way that is hands-on, but that's not always really that helpful for people who are listening right now, unless they're going to go find an alpha bioticist in their area. So I have multiple other practices, and usually I start with trying to figure out where their level of distraction is coming from. Like, what is it, and where is their ability to be responsible? Like their actual responsibility, the ability to respond to life, to circumstances. Quite often people deflect responsibility and allow themselves to be distracted by things like our devices. Quite often, yeah, the screens are quite distracting, and they're designed to hijack our brains and our amygdalas to keep us distracted, and we become the product. And so quite often I try to find, how can I help this person step into a place of responsibility where they're willing to take responsibility for themselves, for their life, and for how they're going to continue to move through their life. Because people come to me with all kinds of different, let's say, challenges or issues that are happening in all different areas of life, whether it is, something physical, some type of physical dis-ease or ailment or pain that's happening, or even spiritual or emotional, even like mental pain as well, where there's something that's not quite in alignment in their life. And so that's always my first step, is like, what is distracting you and how can I help them come to a place of awareness, bring that consciousness to it, to where they can say, oh, I can choose something different. But when people are kind of stuck in the stories and not able to clear that away and kind of stop the mind chatter, then they just kind of stay wrapped up in that over and over and over again. So yeah, go ahead.
Well, that it seems like this is leading right into that discussion around stress science and, what is happening to the brain under stress. And
Mhm.
you're talking about some lateralization in the right and left hemisphere with some of the techniques that you've used. Um, how do you define stress on the individual?
Well, stress is actually just a stimulus that's coming in from the environment. And so there's not really like good or bad stress like per se. It just kind of is what's happening. And ultimately it's the perception of the stimulus that's creating a physiological effect on the system. And so that's where we have, we have mental emotional stresses, we have chemical stresses, we have physical stresses, and we have distress, and we have eustress. So there's like, stress is, like I said, it's not always a bad thing, but what happens when we do perceive a threat that is causing the brain to be stressed in a way that it feels that it needs to go into survival mode. Because we basically only have two brain modes. One is our growth and repair mode. That's our rest and digest. That is whole brain function. That is our parasympathetic, where there's blood in the viscera, all of the vital organs are flowing, and cellular production, everything's functioning as it should be to have growth and repair. But when we perceive the stimulus or a stress as something that is threatening, so either we have a perceived like inner weakness, or it literally could be something that is like, this is dangerous. So, and that can be anything from an unexpected bill, someone cutting you off in traffic, an argument with your partner, or like a boss yelling at you. It could be any number of things, or even like tripping and falling down, right? There's multiple things that could be happening that could be a stress. And when the brain perceives this, it doesn't actually know the difference between something that's imminent and all of these other things that really, like, an unexpected bill, like, it's not going to kill you. But the brain doesn't know the difference between that and, say, like an alligator coming out of a river while you're trying to just pick berries down by the river. And so when this happens, that's the lateralization I was talking about. Based upon this perception, this perceived threat, the brain will allocate energy away from the threat, go into what we know as survival mode. This is protection mode. This is totally normal. We're meant to do this. That's how we've survived as a species. And so it will lateralize. One hemisphere gets kind of most of the energy, and then the other side kind of starts to brown out. When this happens, one side of the body comes into weakness, the other side comes into constriction to make up for that, to be in what we know as fight or flight. Some also there's freeze and fawn too, but where we're ready to either like face this threat or just get away from it, or maybe we will just like try to be cute or just lay there and play dead. Who knows? But when that happens, the blood leaves the midline of the body. It leaves the viscera, it heads to the limbs, aka the limbic system. Not only is the brain lateralized into one side, but it's also moving back into the amygdala, into the limbic system to get ready for dealing with this threat. Like I said, this is totally natural and we're meant to do this, but we're only meant to do it for probably about 20 to 30 minutes at a time. So that ends up being kind of this issue with chronic stress, that these stressors that happen over and over and over again, where there's just no clear ending. There's tons of beginnings, but no clear ending. So this is like always this alligator coming out of the river, but it's like never going away. And then all of a sudden there's another alligator and another alligator and another alligator. So, and because the brain doesn't know the difference, we end up kind of getting locked in that state. And then all of these things, immune function, cell production, digestion, respiration, all are just kind of on a back burner. It's not that they're not happening. The body's, like I said, it's innately wise, like it's gonna keep running, but digesting the berries doesn't become as important as getting away from the alligator when we're in that survival mode. And so over time, this becomes what we know as disease. It sits in the body. Because of this extra tension that's happening and this extra weakness, we see distortion. And when we have this kind of a field happening within the body and immune functions down, nothing's quite working at its optimal place, then that starts to create an environment where dysbiotic organisms can start to take over, and so many different things can happen, and that ends up being a plethora of different disease. That's like they say that like 93% of all disease is stress related. And this is why, this is where that statistic comes from, is because we're just not adapted as humans to handle the complex chronic stress that's happening over and over and over.
Do you find with working with your clients, are you noticing, are they actually in their bodies?
Well, it depends on the person, but quite often, no. In general, most people, especially in the beginning of coming to me, it's most people, and this is even outside of my clients, most people that I come in contact with are very like heady. This is just overall what we see. Rarely are people in their bodies, rarely are people in their heart space. It's kind of all up here in like the upper, like 3 energy centers, ultimately very logical and sometimes not even fully there. It's like people have just so disassociated from their body, whether it was from trauma or that lack of presence, even where they're just not even comfortable being in their body. So that too creates quite an issue.
Yeah, what made me think of it, I just saw a 75-year-old with some significant scoliosis, and I asked her, well, when did that start? And it was clearly a result of some of these contortions to stress that you're talking about, but it was so subtle through time of her not being present to herself, to the mechanism that we walk around in here. I was curious what you found in your practice with that. And this component of, and I know you do a lot with shifting from the survival mode into relaxation and balance, and
Mm.
wondering, if you want to speak into that on some of the techniques that you use, what you've seen working for modern day folk with these stress survival skills that have served them to a point, but aren't taking them to Wellville anymore.
Yeah. So one of the easiest things that I found, when someone becomes aware, they're willing to take responsibility. They're like, okay, I don't want to live in this way anymore. Right. And they're like, so what can I do? What can I do for myself? Because I can't always, go and do, say come in and get an alignment,
Mhm.
as like the hands-on work. And there's so many modalities out there that can actually help to balance the brain, that are quite popular, from like yoga and meditation. And I mean, there's a lot of different things, but one of the things that I found that I feel like is just like such a hidden gem and actually works to help balance the brain that someone can do on their own is a practice called edu. It's
Mm.
evolutionary spinal maintenance. And my husband and I here at the Vitalist Project are the lineage carriers of this practice. And it is a spinal maintenance practice. And when we work with the spine, we're working with the whole central nervous system. We're working with the brain. And this is a movement system that's designed to rhythmically cross the midline of the body. When the arm literally crosses the midline of the body, then it forces the hemispheres to start talking to each other because the right hemisphere controls the left side of the body, the left hemisphere controls the right side of the body. So throughout this practice, it's doing kind of multiple things, but it's making the hemispheres communicate with each other, simultaneously communicating to the body and innervating all of the nerves and tissues all along the spine, lubricating the conduit, right? Our whole spine is like a circuit board, and the brain is like the main power. So what we do, like I was saying with alpha biotics, that's kind of like resetting the main, it's like, oh, we just got to get the lights all the way back on. But with a practice like edu, it's like going in and it's like working with all of the circuitry to make sure that all the energy is flowing through the whole system. And hearing you speak about someone with scoliosis over the years, it made me think of how we refer to the spine also is the axis of presence.
Mm.
So it's a central column, and depending on which tradition that you look at or you come from, that same column is called multiple things: the Sushumna, the Jed, the pranic tube in like Vedic medicine. So it's all of these traditions are referring to the same thing, which is the center line of the body, right? There's this core tube, if you will, if you think about the way that our energy body works is like there's one like literally tube that runs through the center of our being, and then our energy centers come out of that, and it creates what's known as a torus field, which is kind of like the shape of a donut for those who aren't familiar, that literally moves in both directions around our body, flowing through our energy centers. And it opens at the top and at the bottom, and it kind of creates this whole field of how our energy moves. So with edu, you're working on a very physical level where you're moving and toggling each vertebrae, lubricating the spine, lubricating that whole conduit, like I was saying, getting the cerebral spinal fluid moving even more through the ventricles of the brain, making the brain communicate with each other. And simultaneously, we're tonifying that axis of presence and bringing someone fully present, fully in their body by focusing on the midline of the body and the way that the energy is moving through, all while doing this to basically a story, which is really fun. And the story is life affirming and self-reflective and gets into those other aspects of like quieting the mind, because we have so much mind chatter that takes us out of presence. And so it's like this practice is designed to just like bring you all the way in. And once you know it, you can do it in like 15 to 20 minutes, or
Oh,
you
that's
can
awesome.
yeah, it's great. Or you can elongate it and do it, for an hour if you want
Sure.
to. It's just like, it's kind of like doing more reps or doing it even longer than,
Sure.
yeah.
With that, I might invite you on to our brain regeneration community. We've got a growing community of folks that are regrowing their brains in a brain regeneration component. So that sounds really fascinating to bring the movement component in. We teach that we're light beings being compressed down into the meat suit, right, through that central channel. And
Yeah.
really that remembrance of we're greater than the
Mhm.
pieces and parts. And so and eventually return back to that innate intelligence, that vitality that you talked about at the beginning.
Yeah.
So having that, that's awesome. So that you also, there's some other things around like breath work. I wanted to make sure that I had you
Mhm.
share around how you bring breath work into this process of the prana or the chi or energy with breath. I think it's one of these things that everybody at home listening can connect to, because number one, we recommend don't stop breathing, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
the basis. But actually incorporating this in can be very powerful to instill the deep presence or coming home to yourself, or that quieting the monkey mind. And I wonder if you could speak into that.
Yes. First of all, definitely invite me into that group. I would love to be a part of it. And yes, the breath is so key to presence and to vitality. And so if we think about the word respiration, the core there in Latin is spiri, which is spirit. So each time we're breathing, we are re-spiriting ourselves. And I love to think about that because as I spoke in the beginning about this innate wisdom, this spirit, this energy that's connecting all of us to each other and to source, and even within ourselves, the more that in tune we become with our spirit, this life force energy, and then it's like the more that we can be in tune and vital with everything. So each breath is this respiration, right? We're re-spiriting ourselves. And the coolest thing about the respiratory system and breathing is that it is going to happen no matter what. Like, you don't have to think about it. The body's going to keep doing it. However, you can bring conscious awareness to it and you can begin to control it. You can choose the breath pattern. You can play with suspensions. You can do all kinds of different things to experience different states of being through the amount or the way that you're respirating yourself.
Mm.
So simple. Most people actually don't even breathe like correctly. I guess I don't want to say that, but ultimately,
Yeah.
yeah. Most the correct way to breathe is in through the nose, where the belly fills up like a balloon, and then the mouth slightly opens and you exhale through the mouth while the belly pulls towards the spine. So oftentimes I'll start with teaching people just that. Very simply, let's just breathe in this way and see if we can get the breath to begin to tune itself and the body begin to be trained to breathe in that pattern. So that way it's at least doing it correctly um, to start with.
For
And then,
sure.
yeah, and then we can play with it from there. We can do all nose breathing. We can do all mouth breathing. I found that if I'm going to do all mouth breathing, it's more so doing like a connected breath where oftentimes I'm working with an emotions like anger. I found that open mouth breathing really helps move things like anger, those like kind of like those hot and fiery emotions. And connected breathing is also a way that now, like I said, if we're respiriting ourselves, now you're doing it in an even more connected way where there's no pause between the inhale and the exhale and the next inhale.
Mm.
So it's kind of difficult to do this all the time, but when we're consciously breathing, we can do that. And so one of the ways that we love to do that is we call it big wave breathing. And it's where you imagine yourself like kind of like you're laying on a beach and your feet are by the water and your breath, we're going to do it connected, because think about the waves. The waves are they're not stopping. They're not going to come in and just pause and then go back, right? They're perpetually moving. So we keep connected breathing. And then we imagine as we inhale that there's a wave coming up, and then we exhale a wave going down, and then a wave coming up and a wave coming down. And if you watch the ocean, naturally, every like sixth or seventh wave, there will be a big wave. If you've ever surfed or even, like I said, just watched the ocean, you can notice this, that not every wave is like huge. So we do this in a connected way in a breath pattern that's 5 kind of shorter or normal breaths in and out 5 times. And then that 6th breath is a big wave. And so you connected, fully breathe all the way in, filling up till you can't fill up anymore. And then at the top, without pause, you let the wave fall back out. Without pausing, you start the cycle over again and then do 5 shorter waves, small waves into the big wave. And then do that, 5 times. I use my hands to count it. So we can even do a round together if you'd like.
I think so. There is time for that. That would be fun to experience that.
Okay. Okay. So we're going to start on it. I'll keep track with my hands, just so people can see if they are watching this. If you're not watching it, every breath, I'm putting up a finger basically, and like keeping track. So we start on an exhale, and then we will begin with our breathing. So exhale all the way out and inhale, little wave. Exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Now time for the big wave, big all the way in as much as you can. And let it out. And then do it again. Inhale and exhale and inhale and exhale. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Big wave. And exhale. Let's do 2 more rounds. Keep going. Small waves. Inhale, exhale, inhale, and exhale. Inhale and out. Inhale, inhale, exhale. Time for the big wave. Fill all the way up. And exhale at the top. 1 more round. Small waves. Let's go. Inhale, release. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Inhale, exhale. Last small wave. Exhale. Big wave. Breathe all the way in, big and deep. Without pausing, let it go. Emptying all the way out. Taking a nice deep breath and letting your breath normalize. Taking a moment now to just feel in to yourself. Turn your awareness inward. Close your eyes. Put your hand on your heart, on your center line, maybe on your belly. And just take a moment to feel what it feels like to have done a round of big wave breathing and have that much energy flowing through your body in this moment. And then here you are. You're still breathing and you're present and ready for what's next.
Well, thank you. That component, it's really straightforward. And I really appreciate you sharing that for folks to actually experience it and come into the moment with us. And that is truly how one can get there, right? It's not this elusive process of, oh, I've got to go sit somewhere and do this. Now, I don't recommend doing that driving. That is a sit and be still moment. You can pull over if you're, really
Yeah.
in need. But that aspect of that lightness, of connecting to source, of your breath, of the in and out, and that respiration of re-inspire. I love how you put that. Thank you so much.
Hmm. Yes, I definitely don't recommend it while driving unless maybe you're just sitting in traffic. But definitely pull over, make sure you're parked. Because quite often when we begin to breathe consciously and we begin to have this much focus on the air that's coming into our body and the energy that's coming in our body, we can notice lightheadedness. Sometimes people get a little buzzy, and because the energy is literally just moving through the body. And if you did do that with us and you felt lightheaded, it just means that on a regular basis, you're not really breathing to your capacity. So what do you do about that? You just do a little more conscious breathing. And that can be as simple as just 3 deep breaths. Like I said, in through the nose and out through the mouth. It doesn't have to be complex. It doesn't have to be big wave breathing. But the more consciousness we can bring to it, the awareness of how we're breathing, then the more we begin to breathe to our capacity.
I love it. Now, I want to let people know you can get in touch with Swirl. We've got all of her contact information in the show notes, and she's got a vital calendar for mindfulness practices. If you like that technique, she teaches a lot of these, I believe, in her school, in vitalswirl.com, which is awesome. Is there any last parting messages that you'd like to share with our listeners and viewers?
Mm. I would just like to share that it can be really simple. So keep it simple. That's one of my biggest things that I like to remind people of, that it's sometimes this healing journey or the next, whatever it is that we need, that, this too shall pass. And that as long as we keep it simple, then we can just take that next step forward, because that's what it's all about.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Swirl, for coming on What the Health. You all, if you like this show, give us a thumbs up, get out there, give us a 5-star review as well. It really helps get the word out. We're really bringing some life skills and really important messages to you all. We wouldn't be doing it without you. Thank you.
Thank you.